I simply desire for the reality to be revealed. I am not concealed. For what reasons are you? How come you've made an effort to silence Denise? For what reason, Jonathan, have you threatened to sue her? Why? Please tell me. Why? Why is your fear based on something she knows? Despite her lack of knowledge, Denise breached confidentially by communicating with. Since then, what gave it to you? Daystar Television Network has been embroiled in a storm of scandal following Marcus Lamb's death, with most of the claims directed upon Joni. Lamb. After remarks made by Jonathan Lamb, who has advanced additional concerning accusations, these worries have grown. His revelations revolve around the contentious selling of a house called Poppy's House, a spot with profound sentimental and meaning to Marcus Lamb on a spiritual level, and was integral to his plans for the future of the ministry. The ministry's holdings here included more than just buildings and assets. One of Marcus's last and most intimate visions provided the inspiration for Poppy's dwelling. It was thought of, inspired by his personal journey, particularly his trials, his mistakes, and the atonement he pursued following a transgression in his ethics. Marcus dreamed of the house as a haven where spiritual leaders who were struggling with burnout, marital strife, or personal crisis might find solace. In Poppy's mansion, allegedly sold by Joni Lamb in a startling and apparently conspiratorial turn of events, Poppy's house must also be examined. Well, that's just one more investment that's been sitting there. While they're bringing up the possibility of an Airbnb, we're not really making use of it. It is situated in an isolated area. Furthermore, we have severed relations with living water. Thus, we are not productive. We should be using puppy sauce. So why aren't we? Reason being, there aren't enough ministers to warrant holding regular gatherings there. Thus, Denise was occupying its time. Actually, that's not true. It was maybe once a month, at the most. Did have some things in there, but Denise is no longer involved in our project. Living Waters is no longer associated with us. They will no longer be involved in our operations. For what reason is that? I simply desire for the reality to be revealed. I am not concealed. I agree with you. What gives you the will to? How come you've made an effort to silence Denise? Just why have you threatened legal action against her? Why, Jonathan? Please tell me. Excuse me? Why is your fear based on something she knows? Despite her lack of knowledge, Denise breached confidentially by communicating with. So, why did you go ahead and threaten her with lawsuits? I did not threaten to sue her. That isn't true. I stated if she keeps going. A lawsuit was threatened by Darius Johnston. Possible legal action is on the table. Also, you're still having conversations with people who are attempting to drive a wedge between us. A family that has been embroiled in controversy on multiple occasions, with Susie being caught in the center of each one. What is it about Denise's knowledge that you find so damning? She is completely ignorant. She is completely ignorant. I am aware of her. Every single thing. Then why is her heart causing you such fear? Absolutely everything is under my control. Because you sought to distance yourself from her, you entirely dismantled a remarkable ministry that my father had founded. No. Someone who has consistently failed to. A boon to our household. You are my father. I am solely responsible for Denise's success in our lives. We purchased the house on the strength of my faith in her, but she has since misled me. Between betraying me and telling me things, she has done what so many people do. She has told me things. Like you mentioned, Susie mentioned that all the youngsters think she's untrustworthy. Counseling is not something you do with a person. She isn't a counselor, to begin with. She was a woman with prophetic gifts, yet she lied and betrayed them all. You distance yourself from someone the moment you notice that quality in them. In this case, it was her hand raising to indicate that the marriage was wrong. Nothing she said ever indicated that. That is all. I was misled into thinking she was for the marriage when in fact she wasn't. She was addressing the congregation, the youth, and delivering, mending relationships. So-and-so was reportedly really excited about, according to her. Only Denise has had conversations with Doug and Lisa. No, Jimmy Evans is right. This counselor is unique. She has a more complete account of what transpired, Jimmy, and she knows if it was suitable, and you're terrified of it. Jonathan says that his dad felt a tremendous need to help other ministers avoid making the same mistakes he had. Poppy's house was meant to be a haven where individuals who were silently suffering might find solace, guidance, and healing. Suffering. Making a structure wasn't the only thing that mattered to Marcus. It was all about making a lasting impression of kindness and forgiveness. According to Jonathan, selling this land not only contradicts that ideal but also calls into question the Dyer's path and principles after his father passed away. Rumor has it that Joni Lamb reneged on her plans for the land when Marcus Lamb passed away. Then Joni proceeded to list the house for sale. It was Joni's original asking price of $1. There were obvious concerns when the value dropped by $400,000 from $65 million to $1.25 to $25 million. There was no pressing financial or ministry-related necessity for the transaction, according to Jonathan Lamb, who has spoken out against it. Joni remarried sex therapist Doug Weiss not long after, and Jonathan said his mother committed this deed on purpose. The choice to sell, as Jonathan sees it, was motivated more by vengeance than accountability, particularly in reaction to Denise Boggs, a reliable confidant. Somebody who had been a counselor for many years within Dyer ministry, and was respected by the family. Jonathan thinks Denise tried to punish or silence Joni by selling her out after she questioned her connection with Doug Weiss. The thing that was most concerning about the situation, according the fact that Jonathan Lamb was never notified of the sale was a major disappointment to the contributors, many of whom had selflessly contributed to the cause of Poppy's house. In Jonathan's view, this was more than simply a communication breakdown. A profound breach of confidence was experienced. In a public, raised serious concerns about the decision, describing it as potentially dishonest and unethical. They emphasized the sacred obligation that comes with donations made for a specified purpose. Truthfulness and openness are due to those who donate to a cause because they believe in it and want to see it succeed. Notifying them of such a significant change without even providing an explanation casts doubt on the expected level of honesty and responsibility displayed by any Christian ministry. The account also explains why Joni Lamb and Denise Boggs' once close relationship ended. To Joni, Denise was far from an afterthought. She possessed profound. Marcus Lamb held the spiritual counselor in the highest regard because of her prophetic gifts and her commitment to assisting others in their emotional and spiritual healing. According to reports, though, things took a dramatic turn following Marcus's death. Tensions reportedly started to boil over when Denise quietly voiced worry over Joni's blossoming romance with Doug Weiss. In response to Denise's concerns, Joni was cagey. She responded with animosity and disdain instead. Denise claimed Joni gave in to what she called a spirit of deceit and ignored grave warnings. Denise had good reason to be worried. She said they originated from their private talks, which she said exposed Doug Weiss's troubled history and unresolved emotional issues with his ex-wife Lisa. Joni was allegedly made a threat to Denise since she was confronted with this information. The ties. Consequently, she claims that she was gradually stripped from her prominent position within the ministry and Joni's confidence. An action that signified the breakup of a deeply intimate and spiritual bond. The partitioning. Abrupt and unyielding tensions emerged between Denise Boggs and Joni Lamb. Joni allegedly started severing all connections with Denise, including her presence at Poppy's house. Pastors in need were helped by the counseling center that Denise was managing. A number of backers. Members of the ministry have implied that Denise's influence was fully intended to be removed when the land was sold, rather than any practical issues about the ministry. According to Jonathan Lamb, Denise had valid worries, but they were difficult to address as they sprang from conversations with Doug Weiss and his ex-wife Lisa, rather than from conjecture. There were a lot of unsolved difficulties and emotional struggles in their relationship, and she had warned Joni about them. According to Jonathan, Joni saw through Denise's dishonesty. She was too smart, too honest, and too hard to turn a blind eye to. As a result, Denise was cut off from all communication with the Lamb family. Without her permission, the ministry property in which she had put so much effort was sold, and Joni allegedly even threatened legal action. It seemed as if the one who had committed herself to assisting the Lamb family and their ministry was left out because her spiritual advice went against what Joni and Douglas was eager to hear. Jonathan Lamb not only details the individual consequences, but also the larger problem of dysfunction and the disturbing lack of responsibility on the part of the ministry's top brass. He argues that decisions like the one involving Poppy's property sale are commonplace and motivated more by personal vendettas and self-serving goals than by divine instruction or the requirements of the vocation. To make matters worse, Joni's hasty remarriage to Doug Weiss was opposed by all of Marcus and Joni's children and wives, including Jonathan and Susie Lamb, Rebecca Lamb and J.W., and Rachel Lamb. Yet, their concerns were mostly disregarded, even though they took a unified stand. Seeing a legacy, they all cared about being transformed by decisions that seemed hasty, and self-serving was something Jonathan spoke openly about. He felt stifled and marginalized. In the absence of openness and dialogue, the sale of donated ministry property is more. Rather than an alert, a blatant alarm it is. As mentioned by Jonathan and others, a toxic atmosphere that destroys trust is fostered when religious leaders disregard sound counsel, work in secret, and let personal connections impact important choices. In the long run undermines the purpose of the ministry. There is a sincere call from the Dyer community for Joni Lamb and the ministry to get back to the original vision that Marcus Lamb championed, principles of transparency and taking responsibility. There are a lot of people who are still hoping that the truth will come out, that the God will restore and prosper the vision Marcus had, especially for places like Poppy's house, and leaders will be held to higher standards. Although this is a major problem in and of itself, it is representative of a broader and more pervasive critique that televangelist ministries encounter. Due to a lack of transparency and constant requests for large donations from loyal followers, many have questioned Dyer Network's business methods. The absence of responsibility and the swift silencing or labeling of dissenting voices are hallmarks of such a system. Hostile to the elect of God. Internal whistleblowers may be afraid of the spiritual or professional repercussions of speaking up in such a toxic setting. If we step back and examine the broader context, we can see that there are accusations of violating Marcus Lamb's vision, as well as personal conflicts, potential financial irregularities, and when critical voices like Denise Boggs are silenced, a terrible picture of profound internal strife becomes apparent. The symbolic significance of Poppy's house sale extends much beyond that of a simple real estate transaction. It signifies the end of an era for many Dyer people, marking the beginning of the end of Marcus Lamb's. Not only the past, but also the larger problems that are affecting the network. A lack of modesty, unbridled power, and not doing what they preach. In the end, this issue raises pertinent and challenging inquiries on leadership, honesty, and the genuine purpose of ministries functioning on a grand public platform. One thing is certain for Dyer's advocates and opponents alike. We need more than platitudes when we talk about accountability and transparency. They must serve as the bedrock upon which every religious group rests. It is our sincere desire to gain insight into this matter from your point of view. Have you any thoughts on Joni Lamb's covert sale of Poppy's house, the house of Marcus Lamb's vision? Let us know what you think by leaving a comment. Please subscribe, like, and share the video if you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching. Behold, the following video will find you here.